Hello guys, welcome back to Godix, ranking New Who, or the new series of Doctor Who, of course, from 2005 till present. And we've reached series 12 as the next in the ranking, of course. So the recent series of Doctor Who, of course, from 2020, the second star Johnny Whittaker, and under by, showrun by Chris Chibnall. And yeah, I just think it's a little bit of improvement from series 11, of course. I would say that it's a bit of an interesting thing with the Whittaker era. It's not a bad era. I would say people tend to shit on it most of the time, but I think a lot of people sort of really got turned off by the whole thing in the series, which I'll get to eventually, which people will probably know. But we'll see how it goes. So let's not be around the bush, of course. Let's go in through these episodes, of course. 11 episodes, of course, including the New Year's special, which we'll get to. So let's do this. So we start with Spyfall, part 1 and 2. So episodes 1 and 2. A bit of a spy parody, really. Involves a tech mogul played by Lenny Henry and someone called Vor. Interesting, strange, weird. If you don't know what Vor is, I wouldn't search it up. Stu Bagfall sort of give us a little mention beforehand. And obviously, you've probably seen these in those what do you call them? Like spam bots. They have links to like Vor.net and what stuff, what not really. So it's like, so just ignore them or get rid of them, really. But it's interesting because, Series 12 has got a lot of interesting scope. This is like an interesting sort of series, really, in terms of locations and everything else. That sort of, it sort of expands on it. It does, So we go from, sort of from London to San Francisco to Australia as well. There's quite a bit, in the first half, of course, building up everything else. But it's also to reveal as well that at the end, the cliffhanger for part 1, of course, when we have this agent called O, played by Sacha Dhawan, is revealed to be the new incarnation of the Master. And I think it's after Missy, I think. So a lot of people have thought it might be in between John Sim or before Michelle Gomez, but I think it is after Michelle Gomez. This incarnation. So it's like interesting. They thought you kind of think they might have gone with another female master, but hey ho, Dhawan himself really brings something interesting to it. Again, a really good performance. So and he's actually a really good master. He is, Yeah, I think for New Who, he's probably one of the best ones. Obviously you got Sir Derek Jacobi, being as if only briefly, very much, as the Master, and then you got John Sim, which I'm questioning about. I'd probably say from the Davies era is not. I don't really care for him really, but when you get from Old Enough in Time, Dr. Faults is actually alright. Very subdued he is, though. He's very subtle in that story. And you come to someone like Dhawan, of course, who's again more antagonistic, very hell bent on getting the Doctor, and it feels like there's a determination and desperation with him sometimes, and that's actually pretty good. There's something to him really. And from the second half, of course, you get this whole adventure involved, going from the 1800s to Paris during the Second World War. But yeah, you had some really interesting characters like Ada Lovelace and was it Amir Khan, I think. Good characters actually, very good historical characters, very sort of semi-obscure ones, but actually really good characters. They all work well, and you kind of think, that should have been an interesting TARDIS team, really, an all-female with 2 companions from the past. That would have been interesting, obviously. Now that's the thing, really. Also with the whole companions thing, of course, Graham and Ryan shone in series 11, of course. I think in this series he shines more, I would say. Graham and Ryan are more subdued in this one, I would say. Obviously, having 3 companions, it muddies the waters a bit, of course, and I think the companions do suffer in this series more so. I think series 12 is more Jodie Whittaker's series. She's more at the forefront. She's very much at the forefront in this, in this series, do with her, really. I think the companions do fall by the wayside, really. It's sort of they play second fiddle, they do. Obviously, companions do, but in this case, of course, like we knew, you can feel it, you can see it, and they don't really do much. They seem a bit, really. I think that's why people struggle to sometimes struggle with the Whittaker era. Sometimes, don't get much of a feeling for the companions, really. Sometimes, especially around here, I could probably say, Graham and Ryan should have left after series 11, also, but obviously this all carrying on really. But I do think it's, they don't really do much really. Obviously, in the second half, of course, you get the companions going on the run, of course, in present day, which is probably the least interesting thing in Spyfall, really. Laser shoes, Graham does this tap dancing thing. I just don't really care for it really. Unfortunately, like it seems a bit bland. It seems just like it just seems like filler for these companions really. At that point, whereas the Doctor's more interested along with the Master, it really works. That's all works, and the companions do suffer in that one. But overall, it's a decent two-parter really, and obviously it sort of builds up where to go, because obviously at the end, Gallifrey's destroyed again. Okay, so yeah, obviously. We never saw Gallifrey until, well, I think, was it Hellbent, the last time we saw Gallifrey. Now, obviously, Children's decided to blow it up again. Okay. So where's that going to lead? So, and then afterwards we have Orphan 55, episode 3. This is by Ed Hyam, who did It Takes You Away. A lot of people shit on this one. I can understand why. There are some glaring things with Orphan 55, really. Down to its cast. James Buckley's wasted as hell. Should have done a lot more better, And the designs, of course, I don't mind. Of course, green wigs, sort of that hyphen lady, whatever. I forgot hyphen something. She's alright, really. She's fine. Don't really mind. Makeup's actually not too bad. It's like it's like a joke or something, or like being taken seriously or something like that. Oh, nice little homage. Could be actually. Who knows? There's some problems with it, of course. Obviously, the whole preachy thing, of course, like the world's, it's Earth from a nuclear fallout or nuclear destruction. The whole thing with the married couple with Benny, I forgot the bloody wife who shouts Benny most of the time. That is a great scene. So I'm quite happy that she got mutilated by the Drex, absolutely. Which I do think they look like Nemesis, really. I mean, some monsters do look like Nemesis, like the Maya from the girl who died. Again, once they take the heads off, there's like bloody Nemesis, really. Then same as the Dregs in this one. So, interestingly, the whole thing with the mother-daughter thing, that security guard and their daughter or whatever, that seemed shoehorned in. I do like the funny moment with Ryan and that sort of infected worm thing. What do you call it, like a parasite or something in his hand. Obviously, he managed to get it out of her bag, and he's stuck his thumb. He's shaking off like he believes bats. He sees bats or something attacking him. That is interesting, actually. I do think that's quite. There's a interesting bit. There's some funniness in there as well. Actually, I do enjoy. And also nicely filmed as well. Filmed in Tenerife, actually, off the actual resort that they go to. Really nice, actually. But overall, it's not. I won't say it's the worst one, of course, but it does seem like a bit of a letdown. Obviously, and obviously, what's included, there's lost. There's some stuff that drowns off in 55 a little bit, but I won't say it's the worst episode ever. Never do, actually. Now, next up we've got is Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. I do love this one. It's a really good one. Probably one of the standout episodes of this series, actually, along with the previous ones beforehand. Like Demons of Punjab to It Takes You Away. They're probably the standout episodes, and Rosa to some extent as well. This is the other one. Again, pretty good historical. Govan Vishnik as Tesla. Fantastic. You got Robert Glenister as well as Thomas Edison, and was it Rakhi Fakra? If I pronounce her name, no, Angie Mahindra. That's it, Angie Mahindra. Sorry, what am I thinking? No, I'm thinking of bloody hell, guy who plays was it Bliss in Big Finish's Time War? No, it's Andrew Mahindra. Very sort of Ragnos-esque, even though it's Scorpion based actually. Interesting. Very tune up the scene here. Feels like very good performance actually. Even though you can't see much of her really, you see most of her head, of course, and she's basically just like having a blast, having a good time really. So that's a really good one. Again, you get the lovely, interesting historical moments, and you got the sort of batshit sort of craziness of the Skifra. That's it. And yeah, it's a really good story, really fantastic. Written by Mina Nativia, who I think was the script editor for series 11. So she's ended up writing her own episode, which is actually pretty good, really good. Now, next up we got is Fugitive of the Judoon, the controversial one, of course. So, I would say it's written by Vinay Patel and co-written by Chris Chibnall. There's a lot of co-writes on this thing, and in this series. Once we get, obviously this is building up to the finale. Of course, we've got Captain Jack coming back briefly, just that sort of thing. Takes the companions out of the way for a bit. They get silent yet again. which seems to be a thing going on, of course. Perhaps the campaigns are more, they sort of work well in sort of like in Orphan 55 and Nicholas Tesla's Night Terror. Fugitive of the Judoon that sort of does it again, really. They end up being taken out. It's like Spyfall, really. Again, focused on the Doctor, of course. We get introduced to Ruth, played by Joe Martin, of course, and we get introduced to another Doctor, who apparently is meant to be from her past, believe it or not. So, and that's all builds up, of course. We get mention of a lone Cybermen as well. And to be honest, I think what it originally might have been, it might have been just a Judoon story that Vinay Patel was all put together, really. And Chibnall just added the Doctor in, the lone Cyberman, Captain Jack, everything else. He put a load of stuff in, of course, into, if it was just Vinay Patel writing this story, it could be much be different. It could be a totally different thing, really. It could be just like a standard funny Dune story, really, around Gloucester. That would have been all right, actually. I think Chibnall's interference with this story might have compounded a bit more. Like, it really, in terms of it doesn't really feel like, what Vinay Patel would write, actually, to be honest. I think there might be some more. I think he was aiming for a Judoon story, but Chibnall hijacked it. That might have been it, actually. Comment down below if you think of that as well. But it's all right, really. Parts of it I don't mind. I think when you first watched it, you think, what the hell? Wait, hold on. It's like, oh, Jack's back, of course. Then you mention like there's another Doctor. I think, what the fucking hell's going on? It's like Whiplash. It is, and that's all. It's like, where do you go from here? That's the thing. Obviously, where we go from here is Praxeus afterwards. Pete McTeague as well, who, again, I'll mention, he'd probably be a future showrunner. We don't know. People think he is, actually, because of his work on the Blu-rays, classic Blu-rays, working with, bits and pieces. Of course, he's a bit of a director as well, writer, director, producer type person. Obviously, he's a fan of Doctor Who, of course. Obviously, he'll bring on, if he gets that job, of course, he'll bring on everyone else, like Joy Wilkinson, Vinay Patel probably will come back, bring on new writers. Chris Chapman as well might end up being a director at some point, who knows. Maybe a block of 2 episodes, who knows. I don't mind Praxeus. It's all right, really, to be honest. Again, the location hopping, that's interesting. The idea of a virus going around, turns people into bone and makes them explode. That's a pretty interesting idea, actually. Also, the whole thing with the plastics and microfibers and birds and everything else, that is interesting. It is. People were hoping for a Sea Devil story or Autumn story because it involves plastics and the ocean and everything else, I think, but sadly never got that. Who knows? Pete McTeague might for that idea, and Chibnall might be against it, and no, I don't know, But I like the idea of what the pollution story will keep on that idea. I'll probably refine it a little bit, of course, and maybe that's why that might be a similar thing with Fugitive of the Judoon. The writers have some great ideas, but Chibnall hijacks them and sort of sort of dissects it a little bit and takes some stuff out, really, and puts his own stuff in. Who knows? I don't know what the writing process will be like, actually, unless, it could be a funny for the script they might have written and Chibnall just like shacks it with a knife or something. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see about that. But I don't mind Praxeus. That's a decent story, that is. And next up we go to Can You Hear Me? We've got the return of the Eternals, actually, in this story. So, like, there's references to the Guardians, Black and White Guardians, the Celestial Toymaker as well, and we get introduced to Zelen, who's actually a really good villain, played by Ian Gelder. A really fantastic performance by him. Probably one of the highlights out of Series 12. Really interesting. Also, is floating, the decapitated fingers. Yeah, that is weird. That is, of course, sticking in people's ears. That's that can freak people out. And I love that scene. That scene is just, oh my god. Well, the scene I mentioned is, it's when the mother ends up, taking his son to bed. Of course, is there a boogeyman? There's no, there won't be anything like that, of course. And obviously, probably says, boogeymen don't exist. And obviously, it turns the light off and Zelen's in the corner of the bedroom. And they say, well, they do exist, of course. And basically, I think it just goes to the boys here. That is actually pretty freaky, actually. That's probably that's a really interesting scene, for Doctor Who, of course. That's, again, pretty good. It kind of reminds me of Urban Gothic a little bit, like, the Sandman story, of course. I won't go mention about that. I'll probably mention when I do Urban Gothic at some point. It's all like that really, but less gruesome. Less gruesome, I would say. But again, interesting stuff. The whole gods thing, even though it's to do with gods and everything else, you know, they're sort of defeated very easy. You've also got the stuff like in Syria in the 1300s as well. That's all. I don't know. Again, channel hopping, of course. Like you go from one in the past to present day, which involves mental health, of course. You get Ryan's friend Dan as well is suffering from depression, everything else. We get into some backstory Yaz when she sort of run away, of course, tried to fled Sheffield. Graham, in a way, he sort of dreams about, like, you know, he thinks his cancer might come back, of course. And obviously we're going to turn to Shandy Clark briefly, of course. So yeah, there's again a bit of stuff going on as well. Like, I think this series has got a lot, some stuff that's been shoved in a lot. Once you say it out loud and you think, yeah, it's quite a lot of stuff in really, and it's just like that really. But it's all right really. It's a decent story. Can you hear me? I do think it's a decent one actually. Horton and Villa Diodati is next. Really good stuff. Baxter and Halton, who's basically a writer for Emmerdale, strangely, and she's actually written a terrific story. Good cast, a shard, brilliant performance by him. Really good performance. I think this is in that story. He's stronger, very threatening, and then he tells Mary Shelley, squeezed her arm, and said that, you know, I watched them die. I slit their throats and everything else. That's really harrowing. That is. Like he killed his own children for it. You know, it's like, jeez, wow. Again, there was some good punch stuff. There's some freaky stuff. There's some good punches in this, you know, within the series, of course. You know, you think, man, they hit the heights really in this one. It's just, you know, again, really good stuff. And stuff like, you know, Ashard trying to get Percy Shelley's Mary Shelley's son, of course, when one of the maids is hiding in this trunk, opens the trunk and breaks the maid's neck, of course, and just holds the child. Again, brilliant direction. You know, creepy as hell, but doesn't kill the baby or anything like that, which is fine. He sees humanity, of course, like, you know, but I think he probably said to it, you know, when you're old, I'll be finishing you at some point, I think. You know, you're too young to die yet or something. That sort of thing. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it really hammers, that does. And no wonder people love the story. Yeah. So let's go for the other two parts, essentially the Cybermen, Timeless Children now. It's all right. I mean, the Cybermen designs, of course, the new ones are actually pretty decent. They are. Ashard, again, very tough. You know, again, sort of futuristic, of course. Last group of survivors tackle Cybermen, and obviously that sort of goes really. Afterwards, we get this portal to Gallifrey in its burnt ruins. Master appears, takes the Doctor to the Matrix, reveals that she is this timeless child who actually come from a portal and is used by the Time Lords to, you know, make regeneration. Like, she's become like, again, it's like a milking process really with her, like, you know, for their survival really. And it's like, yeah, oh, wait, what? And it's actually not bad actually in concept really. It's like, you know, like the Timeless is basically, you know, they're more deceitful and more untrustworthy. You know, when you look at it now, you're thinking, what a bunch of bastards they are. Take on someone like this lonely child and just use its powers, you know, for their own benefit, really. And that's good. That is good. But I think the weird thing is with the Doctor being the Timeless child, it's very sort of, it seems just, I don't know, it seems out of the blue, really. It's like, you know, this most powerful figure ever. Christ, I thought we had the whole thing with Space Jesus and Last of the Time Lords. Jesus Christ. But, I don't know. I probably think it won't be the Doctor still. Like, you know, I do think it's the Master, of course. Like, he keeps coming back, of course, and it feels like he could be the Timeless child. And obviously, he might have just implanted his own memories or fake some memories to put for the Doctor, really. You know, like, Doctor, you should see your memories. And basically his memory, he might be the Master's memories or something. You know, like, you think, but he's sort of saying, it's you, Doctor. You're the one, not me. You're the one. He's hiding in plain sight that he actually is. It'd probably be retconned at some point. You think, it's the Master, that he's the Timeless child, of course. And there we go, really. Nothing else to say about that, so I'll leave it to imagination. I don't mind it. It's all right. It's not the worst finale, I would say. I've seen worse, really. There are some worse ones, so this is not the worst one. And finally, we end up with Revolution of the Daleks, the New Year special. Really good. Again, decent. It's a finale for Series 12, of course. It ties up everything else, really. And Jack Robinson returns. We've got the new Dalek design, of course, which are really good, based on Resolution. It sort of ties in with Resolution anyway, which is a nice callback, actually. So it's another continuation of that. Really good stuff. Jack Harkness does a little bit more in this story, which is all right, of course. Although I think about last time we actually probably see him in recent events, of course. We don't know. Yeah, I just really thought it was, again, just a decent story, good run around. You know, the Daleks invading, of course, using as drones as security to help people of the Earth, and basically end up killing them. Massacring them all in their dozens. Fantastic. Jack Robinson returns. He's done he's a bit more better, more utilised than back into the UK. It has a purpose. He does, and obviously he'll come back eventually. In Chris Nove. Obviously it'll build up to at some point. He'll probably return, and obviously Graham and Rain leaving, of course. Not surprised, really. They didn't really do much, really, to be honest. I don't think, Graham and Rain play second fiddle, of course. Yaz is more the forefront, really, and obviously she'll play the forefront in Series 13, of course, which I'm very interested to see what happens. And obviously we get the reveal of John Bishop as Dan, which I don't mind, actually. People made a tiff of it, really, but I don't mind. John Bishop, he's a decent fella. Be looking forward to see what he brings to the table. I'm looking forward to Series 13. 8 episodes, that'll be all right, actually. I mean, see how it goes, really. I'm interested. So there we go, Season 12. What are your thoughts? Anyway, guys, see you later.